Hello, my fellow comic book collectors. This is another in my interview series. Another really great comic collector, just like me. Another YouTuber, just like me as well. Kind of a friend of me. I don't know because he always makes fun of me. He makes fun of me and it makes me so sad. He always asks really great questions. He always makes fun of me for being Canadian. It's pretty great. Um, so the channel that I'm going to introduce you to and the guy that I'm going to introduce you to is Bill from Comic Mag Musings. So hi, Bill. How's it
Hey,
going?
Alan, how are you?
Good. So just to get started, I always ask the same questions, so there's no real surprise. But tell me a little bit about yourself and how you got started in collecting comics.
Well, I saw your interview with Night Tiger Comics. Really good
Mhm.
interview, by the way, but Mike sets the bar really low, so I can't help but excel during my interview. Um, Grandpa always said one thing that reminded me during your introduction. He always said, save your money, never trust anyone, and always insult Canadians. And those three things have been tenets that I've lived my life by, and I've done well by them.
My grandfather said the same thing, but it was Americans. It's the thing.
I knew it. I knew it. So I used to collect coins,
Same,
Canadian coins. And one day I
same.
went into a shop and there was a Howard the Duck book on the wall. I
Wow,
said,
that's
whoa,
the
yeah,
same
wait a
story.
minute.
Same
That's
origin
your
story.
origin story, not
Oh my
mine.
goodness. Maybe we're like, twins separated at birth or
Separated, yeah,
something.
separated at birth and by border. That's right. I used to collect a lot of sports cards. My older brother, 6 years older than me, he was collecting sports cards in the, I guess, from the late '60s to the, I guess, through the early '90s probably. But he really started buying them at the store maybe during the early '70s, and I started '79, '80 when Topps baseball cards were a quarter a pack. I could go down after somehow by nefarious means securing a quarter. I'd run to the Circle K convenience store and buy myself a pack of cards, which really is, when you think about it, it's the first introduction to gambling, I think, for a lot of kids.
Oh yeah.
Because
Oh yeah.
unlike a comic book,
Because you're
you have
you're
no
you're
idea
like
what's
opening it
inside.
up to find that one
That's
rare card.
that's exactly it. Yeah, you don't know if it's a star, a rookie. Nowadays,
Mhm.
if it's an insert card. Um,
Yeah.
but the first comic book I remember reading, I may have read others prior, but the first one I remember reading and getting, my mom got for me at the grocery store, and it's not this specific copy, but it is
Mhm.
this issue, and that's
Oh
Micronauts
wow.
#1.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, so I got the whole series of Micronauts. Love it. Just great world building. Read that issue and some subsequent issues to death. But went away into the army for many years and kind of got out of collecting. And really, it wasn't until maybe the early 2000s when I got back in off and on.
Yeah. Okay. So you didn't buy during the 90s? You didn't really get into that whole 90s
I didn't.
comic?
And quite honestly, I'm glad I didn't. Other
Yeah.
than a key here and there, I just think the art is atrocious, especially
Oh
the
yeah.
Marvel '90s art with the pouches and the huge people and the lines, motion lines on
Yeah,
faces and
it's
everything.
awesome.
It's just, it's
And then
gag.
it's foil. It's foil too.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So I get it. If that's people's gig, I respect that. But that's just, it's never appealed to me.
I always refer to it as the plastic age because it's
Yeah.
like, just everything about it.
Yeah.
So that's cool. So like what were the big books you started collecting in the 2000s then?
Um, I guess I've always been most heavily into bronze, just because
Okay.
that's kind of what I grew up with. I guess a little bit mid to late bronze. But I started collecting Black Panther, and I collect some silver too. But Ghost Rider is one I'm big into. But I decided a long time ago. I said, here's what I can afford to get high grade from numbers 1 through 20 of these series. I just arbitrarily said 1 through 20, or if the series didn't go to 21 through the last issue. And that's kind of what I focused on. Some years I wouldn't buy any comic books. I'd buy maybe a bunch of trade paperbacks or something like that. And other years I would buy some. So it probably wasn't until maybe 6 years ago when I started focusing a little bit more on the actual collecting aspect of it. But, Captain America, Incredible Hulk, the second Hulk Silver Age run. But it was things that I could afford. Even back then, Amazing Spider-Man, although I was a fan of that character in that series, they were out of my price range for high grade copies.
They were always been expensive.
Yeah, they always have. Yeah. And so I just said, that's not one I'm going to pursue, but maybe Spider-Woman. A little bit later, much more affordable. And I read it. I enjoyed the story. So why not? And that's kind of the focus that I had. So there might be 50 different series, mainly Marvel, not all, but mainly Marvel, that I try to collect. And I'm still working on the 1 through 20, aside from magazines like Warren and Curtis or Marvel, aside from the Golden Age that I've always been interested in, but just recently, within the last couple of years, started acquiring some.
So I actually noticed on your channel that you've been really getting into Warren lately. And is that something that you've always been into, or just really diving into now?
Well, I set out 30, 40 years ago. I set a goal for myself to have the greatest collection of Warren material in the world. But then I figured out you did. Yeah, I figured out you did. So I canceled. I said, no, never mind. I can't do that. I've always, I guess, really with Creepy, Eerie, and Vampirella, those are ones I wanted 1 through 20. In addition to whatever Frazetta issues were outside of that range.
Okay. So there's a bunch that I recommend to you, by the way. There's a bunch.
What's that?
Did you ever look at 1984 or?
I have one. I think I have one slab 1984, which was later changed to 1994, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're pretty cool.
But yeah, the Rook, those ones I'm not necessarily collecting, but if I come across them locally for what I feel is a good price, like I've gotten several of them for $1 a piece, and I figure
they're cheap. Price. They're really cheap.
Right. I'll go ahead and pick those up. Same with Famous Monsters. Those ones I'm not collecting, but if someone says you can get them $1 a piece, I'll probably go ahead and pick them up just because I think that's a good value, and maybe I can use them as trade bait, or maybe I can sell them later on, or maybe I'll just flip through them and enjoy them,
Yeah.
But so, it's mainly Creepy, Eerie, Blazing Combat, and Vampirella that I'm looking at.
Yeah, Blazing Combat's a lot of Frazetta, so I could see that.
It's all Frazetta. Yeah, all 4 covers.
Yeah. There's the one rare book, just so you know, is the anthology. It's like
I have 2 of those. Yeah.
They're really rare, just so you know.
Yeah.
Number 1, and that is the rare book.
Yeah. One I got one at CGC right now. It's been there a year. It'll probably be there another half year. I have a detached cover copy of number 1 with me, so it's not that big a deal.
Okay.
And I do have 2 of the anthologies. That'll probably be in the next couple of weeks one of my Mirror Monday Instagram posts with those 2 copies. Yeah.
That's a cool thing. For me, I don't have any of my Warren books in slabs. None. Like just nothing. I should. I bought them all before CGC existed. So.
Right.
So it's just the way it was.
Understandable.
So what are some of your favorite comics in your collection that you can show?
All right. I tried to take like a couple from different time periods because I do collect all over. Heavy bronze, some silver, increasingly more gold, and a little bit modern here and there.
Okay.
Not
I'll make
too
you
much
big
modern.
when you show stuff here. Okay, go ahead.
All right. So we've got my Ghost Rider number 1. I got this, probably 15 or more years ago.
Wow, that's really nice. That's a really mine's a 9.0, so that's nice. Very nice.
Yeah, I've kind of evolved in my collecting. I was very strict that I want 9.2 or higher for bronze and silver.
Wow.
And I wanted 4.5 or higher in gold. But I've kind of adjusted that because at some point, expectations have to meet finances.
Yeah. Well, a
Yeah.
9.2 of that book, that's an expensive book.
It is. I actually have a 1.5 of
Mhm.
Spotlight 5 that I picked
Oh,
up
nice.
for $20 from someone on locally on an app,
Yeah.
and sent that in. But that might be it for that one. That one's become so expensive that I don't think I'll be
Yeah,
able to
it's
get my
gotten
high grade
crazy.
copy.
I think it's going to come back down though a bit.
I hope so.
It's a little bit overpriced
What
right now.
worries me though is that there's nothing really driving it yet. So if there's another
I
movie
know.
or another TV show, then is it going to go even higher? Right? That's the
Yeah,
concern.
that's true. And there is some like rumors that maybe Ghost Rider is in develop, like that people.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Never know.
We'll see. Hopefully. What else do we have? We have Golden Age, Monster #2, one of my favorites.
That's an interesting one.
Oh yeah, this is what is this? Maurice Whitman. There were 2 issues in this series.
I have the first of the series.
Yeah.
It's really
Painted
great. He
covers.
does really great stuff.
Love it. Just love it. This was one of the books that I was really after. Again, settled on a 3.5 because it presents well and it fit better in my budget. But I'm doing a top 500 pre-code horror comic book cover series. And that one is sure to be in there at some point. I won't reveal where, but it's sure to be in there. And that's been a fun series. A lot of work. Not too many people watch them, but I enjoy making
I've been watching it. I don't always comment, but I do watch it.
I might get 10 more views, 10 times the views for one of my spec videos that I do for any of my top 100 or top 500 videos. But it's a labor of love. I enjoy doing it. And the people that do watch generally seem to appreciate it. So that's.
So how did you come up with the rankings for the books?
I did it. It's just what I think, right? So it's a lot of work. I have, I have the Gerber, Golden Age books. So I go through both of them and I identify what I determine is every single series that's pre-code horror. And then I go and look at every single issue in every single one of those series to see which ones I like. And I put those in a huge bucket. And then I go through and I say, okay, I have 800. I got to trim 300 out of here. And I do that. So now I have 500. I got to put those in different slots. And so, yeah, it takes a lot of work just before
maybe you should change your name to Comic Collector Geek. It's a pretty geeky thing to do, actually.
It's been fun, though. I've enjoyed it.
Yeah, no, it's cool.
Here's Web of Mystery #14, another pre-code horror. That's probably my favorite genre is pre-code horror. That's why I went with 500 instead of the typical 100 that I'd done on the pre-code war, science fiction, Western. So that's a fun one.
I like the werewolf cover. That's pretty cool.
I do too, yeah. And there are a lot of collectors that collect that subgenre of werewolf cover.
Yeah, I know. It's interesting how there's collectors for each little micro genre. Yeah.
Absolutely. It makes it fun. Unless you're trying to get that book, then it makes it more expensive, right? Here's one I've been after for a while.
Oh, wow.
Is the Kelly Frias Witchcraft cover, another painted cover, just gorgeous.
Yeah, I've been trying to get that book for a while too. Hard one to get.
Yeah, if only you had commented on one of my videos saying that.
Oh,
you did. You told me I've been after that. You'll get it.
Oh, yeah, I did. I mentioned. Yeah, I did.
Yeah, you did.
That book. I have other ones from that series. It's a really great series, by the way.
Now, I know that you're a big Sodi collector. And for those that don't know, that's Seduction of the Innocent, right? A book written by Frederick Wortham. And he details several comic books within that tome. And so many people like yourself set out to collect each book that's referenced there. This one, and I use that as a setup because I'm not a big believer in censorship, but I get it. I get it. And if you've seen some of the pre-code horror and crime comics, come on. You have to, there has been an understanding. He wasn't a bad guy. He was probably misinformed, and he certainly didn't follow what, even for the time, were perceived as proper scientific protocols to arrive to some of his conclusions. But when you see things like this, and in the mirror, it graphically shows the guy blowing his brains out, and those are readily available children, I get it. I'm not saying I agree with it, but I get it. And I don't think that they were probably too far off in being concerned or alarmed about some of the material that was available to kids.
Yeah, so I actually tried to get that book 2 or 3 times. That's actually not a SOTI book.
No. But I use it as a setup.
Should have been a SOTI.
Yeah, absolutely. It should have. Well, not to jump on the soapbox, but I blame Bill Gaines partially for this, because he very much wanted to puff out his chest and make it sound like he was responsible for the creation of the Comics Code Authority, which he sort of was, because he did suggest
he was,
it.
actually.
But he made it sound like they specifically were hunting him. They weren't. The main issue that that the trials were about, that the Seduction and Innocent book were about crime comics, not necessarily horror.
Mainly crime comics.
Yeah, it was crime, because it was not only the graphic nature of the covers and the images within, but it was the disrespect for the law, the flagrant disregard for authority, things like that. Horror work continued, but the way he really put himself in, he volunteered, to go before the Senate subcommittee hearing. No one called him and asked him to show up. He volunteered to do that. He put himself into that. So a lot of the Comics Code Authority and the SOTI stuff that you read or that you hear about makes it sound like it was an attack against EC, and it was completely aimed against DC, and that's not the case. But I think that he's helped create that myth since Mad Days on forward, as if he was fighting the good fight on behalf of everybody else.
Well, what I think actually, like, what people don't really understand is that he was the one that came up with the idea of the Comic Code Authority, and he did it because he totally screwed up his testimony. And there was that big next day thing where Bill Gaines says it's okay that and they show the most brutal
crime suspense 22,
right?
So is this appropriate? I'd say for a horror comic. He says he was taking a diet drug and he hadn't eaten. He was taking a weight loss drug, and it messed up his mental faculties. I don't know if that's. I just think that he was probably in an untenable situation to begin with, and he probably shouldn't have volunteered to start with.
Yeah, but what I think really happened was once he started that process of the Comic Code Authority, then DC and Marvel saw it as an opportunity. So when it wasn't really, so he kind of started the process, but they kind of took over the process, and they were like, wow, we can use this to get rid of EC, because the one that was eating up all their profits was EC. So, they created rules like you can't use the word weird. Like, think of all the EC titles that use weird. So, they would do that kind of thing. And it was
I sort of agree with you. You're right in the sense that did happen, right? Including Archie publications. A lot of them got together. But I don't necessarily think it was specifically aimed at EC. I think that there were a lot of crime and horror producers that were all eating their lunch. And they said, if we can get rid of all of these guys, let's do that. I think that that's more what happened.
I don't know. I always feel like it was sort of like they were sort of dogpiling on EC, not the people at the Senate hearing, but the actual other comic publishers.
But I agree. But I mean, you had Weird Adventures, weird thrills, weird tales from another world. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm just using that example, right? So
Yeah, that's true. That's
you
true.
could
They were
arbitrarily
fans
take
that show.
EC, right, and say, wait a minute, EC has weird in one of their titles, but so did all of these other publishers.
Yeah. They all did. They all did. Yes, you're
Yeah.
right. But actually, it was kind of funny. There was like 2,000, I believe, 2,000 different publishers before the Seduction of the Innocent, and then maybe 200 after. It was just like just like a bloodbath. It was, yeah.
It was, yeah. But I often wonder. I mean, if you look at some of the covers from the 40s, and I don't want to derail this too much.
Yeah.
From the late 40s through mid 50s,
Mhm.
I don't know how much more could it sustain, right? Because there was so much one-upmanship that I think that naturally people probably would have started drifting away from the horror and the crime titles anyway, because there's only so much you can do to shock people. And I think they pretty much covered just about every facet of it.
Yeah. Then they went into more shocking stuff with romance.
You ain't joking.
Okay. Show some more.
All right. Next one. This is probably, and I love EC. So I do collect EC mainly because I just think they're probably 5, 6, 7 times better written than any other Golden Age comic was out there for all of their titles. There's really
really well written.
Yeah. This is still probably my favorite cover that I have, at least of all time.
Nice.
This crime suspense. Love this.
Yeah, I'm trying to put a collection of that, that run, of crime suspense stories. That's a great one.
Yeah, number 22's, gosh, I've been after that for a couple of years, but it's getting pretty darn expensive.
My 22 is very ugly. Very ugly.
I mentioned magazines, right? So obviously,
nice.
Conan is a big one. Savage Sword of Conan is my favorite comic book series of all time. I just think the art is incredible. The writing is amazing. Absolutely love it. So I collect a lot of them. If I can get them for cheap, Conan's, Savage Swords, I'll pick them up. And we had mentioned
amazing covers. I agree.
We had mentioned this previously. So there's an Eerie representing the Warren mags that I get.
Yeah. So people that don't know, they should really know what that is. That's a major book. That's a Frank Frazetta cover. It's in high grade. Like those books, there's not many in high grade like that.
The only reason I picked it up, Alan, I don't know if you can see that.
What does it say?
It says Canadian price variant.
Oh.
So in honor of you, sir, I picked it up.
It's funny. Most of my collection of Warren is the Canadian price variant. So I actually had to go and get extras to get the American price variant too.
So because you're probably picking them up locally, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense. It's often been said that the U.S.-Canadian border is the biggest one-way mirror in the world. You ever heard that?
Yeah, not really.
Because Canadians know an awful lot about Americans, and Americans know relatively little, or at least comparatively little about Canadians.
That's very true.
All right, here, just a couple more. This was number 1 in my Pre-Code Western Top 100 series. And that is my Indian Warriors number 8, L.B. Cole cover. This is from 1951, Star Publications. And then it was reprinted 3 years later in 1954. That's the Accepted Publications printing.
Yeah.
So love it.
Yeah, to get the original is actually a big deal.
What's that?
To get the original is a big deal.
Yeah, I like it. Obviously, I just think I'm a huge L.B. Cole fan. I just think he was amazing. His mastery of colors, and you can tell he definitely has a background in advertising, because his gig was to draw you in to pick up and buy that book. And I suspect he succeeded quite often at that. Last one. This is one I'd been after for a while and was super excited to get it. And this is Horrific number 6. Wow. I definitely like the Witch Doctor covers, and Don Heck, I just think, was incredible. Not only a great superhero artist, but he did a lot of wonderful pre-code horror covers that I think sometimes get overlooked.
Yeah, that's a great cover, by the way. I've seen
Yeah, I
some of
love
those other like other covers for that series as well. There's some really interesting ones.
it.
Like,
Absolutely. Yeah, love it.
yeah. So yeah, it's kind of funny. Um, okay, so I was kind of curious. What are you actively hunting now? What like?
Good question. Kind of all over the place. I did make, in the very beginning of this year, I created my top 22 comic books that I'm on the lookout for in
Okay.
2022. We'll see, but some Blue Bolt Weird Tales would definitely be on
Okay.
there with some Moby Cole covers. Creepy #1. I'd like to get a
Yeah,
high
that's
grade copy, but we'll
really
see.
hard to get.
It really is.
Wait, a creepy or eerie #1?
Creepy. Eerie #1's very hard to get.
Yeah. Okay. I was thinking.
Yeah, I know someone in Canada that has one. I might
Yeah. Yeah.
slip in there across the border and see if I can secure it.
Like I did tell you this before? Do you know Steve Dolnick?
No.
Yeah, you should really reach out to him. He might be able to
He's a
get you
guy
a
in New York, you said, right?
Yeah, he's the guy in New York, and he might be able to hook you up with both creepy #1 and eerie #1. He
I'm
has pretty.
surprised you haven't reached out to him again to see if you can get the second printing of Eerie #1.
I don't think he had it. I don't think he had it. He only had the first print because he had a pretty good connection with both Forrest J. Ackerman and the other guy. What's his name?
Jim Warren?
James Warren.
Yeah.
So yeah, he was really well connected with them, and I'm not sure if you knew, but when Warren kind of went defunct, they had a massive warehouse sale. Like they were storing all this stuff, and a handful of collectors or kind of dealers bought chunks of this. They would have these big auctions, right?
Right.
And he was one of the people that was involved with that. And so he picked up a bunch of very key issues.
Could you imagine picking up like 20 or 30 Vampy #1s?
I know. So I got a bunch of good books from him. I got my Famous Monsters #1. I got like a bunch of key issues from him. He was pretty great.
Are you missing any issues that you're aware of?
No.
Well, you are missing that second printing though, right?
I am missing the second print, but that's not an official. So I'm going with that as a
Is that your excuse? All right, fair enough.
That's my excuse. But I am missing a few of the foreign Warrens, like a bunch of the foreign ones. There's a few countries that I'm missing as well.
And you have the Warren Presents title as well?
So the Warren Presents is kind of interesting because it's almost like a made up name. Like it's like, some of them are called Warren Presents, and then there's like a bunch missing, and then later there's another Warren Presents.
Right.
But what they said is like some of the issues that just weren't called Warren Presents were Warren Presents. It's sort of like the way that they did the numbering of Famous Monsters, where Monster World was part of the numbering. It's like they did a bunch of things like that. So the big one actually that I'd recommend, I know you like L.B. Cole, but another artist that I think is really amazing is Richard Corbin. You should really try to find Comics International. That's really great series. Like just amazing.
I'll check it out. Yeah, I mean, Warren had some great artists, didn't they?
Yeah. Oh, they had some of the best. Like we were talking about Sodi, we were talking about the fall of the golden age, but what I think happened was a lot of these artists had no home, and Warren gave them a home. Gave them a place to go to continue on. So.
Well, not only golden age artists, but I think they had a pipeline to Spain too, didn't they?
Oh yeah. So they were getting a lot of the Spanish artists are really great.
Yep.
but they were just like, I think they could get it really cheap.
Correct. I think Marvel did the same thing with
Yeah.
the Philippines.
Yeah. Yeah.
So speaking of Warren, Vampirella #6, getting a high grade of that, and that's one of the questions I asked you, right? Where it's a
Okay.
Kelly cover, but Frazetta did the girl's face.
Yeah.
That's probably my favorite Vampy cover. So I'd really like to get a high grade copy of that. Worlds of Fear #3. So a lot of Golden Age stuff, Bronze Age stuff, but we'll see, right? It always comes down to being able to find something at what you perceive to be a good value, and then subsequently having the funds to be able to execute that. So unfortunately, those things don't line up quite as often as I'd like them to.
Yeah, it's sometimes like I'm still wondering when my Action 1 is coming in.
I mailed that to you like 2 or 3 times. You haven't gotten it?
Yeah, that's what they always say that, and then it never arrives. So like, what would be your, like, are there any big books that you would really like? What would be the big book that you'd want to hunt for, or that you want to get this year, maybe as a Christmas gift or something?
Maybe Blue Bolt Weird Tales of Terror #114.
Okay, I know that cover.
That'd probably be one that I'd say is big, but not unrealistic. Other famous funnies, Frazetta.
Yeah, you like the Frazetta stuff.
Yes. But
those have really exploded. I could have gotten them so cheap last year.
Oh yeah.
And I was like, no. Somebody offered me them.
Wow.
And it was like a couple $100 each.
Well, look them up real quickly, would you?
Yeah. I know.
See if that offer still stands.
Yeah, no, I don't think so.
Yeah, so that would probably be it. I try to be realistic about it, about what I can attain and ones that I probably won't be able to attain. And sometimes I make concessions. It's like with my Warren stuff, I really wanted it 9.2 or higher, right?
Yeah.
But then when I'm looking at Vampy 1, I'm like, I'm not going to be able to probably afford that. So I got a mid-grade raw copy of Vampy #1, and I absolutely love it. So I'm glad I changed my mind on that. It's just fantastic. So we'll see. We're always evolving, right?
I was watching an auction that's actually probably finishing as we're recording this, where they have a Vampirella 113. That's not a Warren book, but it's it's Harris Publishing. Right. They try to continue it on, but then they gave up after the first issue.
Right.
Somebody has it 9.6. Okay. It's the last time I saw it was earlier today. The bid, it was around almost $900.
Jeez, that's insane.
That's a really rare book, though. It's hard to find.
Yeah. Well, apparently.
Yeah. No, I have it, but it's not 9.6. It's like a lower grade. I bought the only copy I ever found. So
smart.
Yeah, but so what are you working on now, by the way? What are you like? Where can people find you?
They can find me in my YouTube channel at Comic Mag Musings. And they can find me on IG, the Instagram, you kids call it, at Comic Mag Musings. And also Comic Mag Musings sells comics. So I have 2 Instagram accounts there.
Oh, okay. So I'll put those links in the description for people that want to check out Comic Mag Musings. What are you working like? What kind of stuff do you do on your channel?
I do unboxings. I try to mix it up. I do the top 100 pre-code series. I've done one on war, science fiction, Western, and I bumped it up to 500 for pre-code horror. And I'm in the midst of that one right now. It'll probably run through the end of this year. But I also do like dollar pickups, 50-cent pickups, comic book hauls, mainly older stuff. I don't really do much new comic book day stuff. I hardly ever go to a comic book shop. But those things, and I try to mix it up. Some original art, vlogs where I read an issue of a Silver Age story. That way you can kind of do something else and have that going on in the background. So
you're like
I try to do
Audible now?
different things. What's that?
You're like Audible
Yeah, pretty much, exactly.
for
I've done
Silver Age.
Incredible Hulk 1 through 6,
Oh, wow.
Aquaman 1 through 5, Fantastic Four, and I'm working on Teen Titans, the Silver Age run of Teen Titans right now. At least the first 5 or 6. Yeah. Yeah, I remember like working. It's like I'd want to support and watch some friends' content, but it's like they're doing an unboxing or something, and so I feel like I have to.
You have to watch it, and
I have to watch it, and I just can't do it. So I figured maybe other people in that situation, they just want to hear something going on in the background while they focus on something else.
Yeah. So yeah, I always think it's funny when people say that they listen to me on like in like an audio format, and I'm like, but I'm showing like so many comics. Like,
right.
It's so weird. Yeah, but
right.
yeah, I guess that's really popular.
Yeah.
So yeah, so thanks, by the way. That's it for the interview. I was gonna grill you. I was gonna ask you like the tough questions.
I was ready.
Yeah, like the brutal interviews. But thanks again for coming on the show. I might even have you come again, like onto the show. We'll do like a second interview where I will ask the questions that will, make you cry. That's
the hard-hitting questions that the public doesn't demand. Yes.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, so thanks again, and that's it.
Thank you for having me. Appreciate it, Alan.